Good morning, everyone. My name is Rafiz Kamaliv, and today's topic is stems. And stems link uh, plants' roots and leaves, and usually are aerial and usually may take different forms. Can be very small, can be very large. And most uh, massive stems are of trees, and stems can be either herbaceous, and that is a soft non-body tissue, or woody, that is a very hard tissue with a wood and bark. Most stems are circular in cross-section. Uh, um, However, some of them can be square, like for example mint stems. And the main function of the stems are support leaves and flowers, uh, and usually in upright position, so that the leaves can absorb the maximum of the light for the photosynthesis. Usually the flowers that are reproductive structures are located so that they are accessible to the insect for the pollination. Uh, and then also the stems provide transport, so they conduct water and minerals from the roots to the leaves, and also the carbohydrates from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Uh, and the third uh, function of the stems is they also produce new tissues, and usually stems continue to grow throughout their life, and they do that by forming the buds. So this is uh, uh, a new woody twig, and you can see buds buds here. So two buds at the end of this twig, uh, and they can develop into the leaves or flowers. So there are two types of the growth, primary and secondary. So primary growth increases the length of the twig, and usually occurs at the apical meristem at the tips of the stems, so here and here. And also there is a secondary growth that increases the girth or circumference of plant, and it's because of the activity of the lateral meristems. So and the lateral meristems give secondary tissues, and they are distinguished from the primary tissues. So secondary tissues here are distinguished from the primary tissues at the apical meristem. So all plants have primary growth, and some of them also have a secondary growth. And stems with only primary growth are herbaceous. And the secondary growth is only seen in woody tissues. And a woody plot increases its length by primary growth at the tip of the stems, and the secondary growth increases the wood and bark, and these two types of the growth continue throughout the life. And some stems can be also modified for asexual reproduction, but we will discuss that later. And there are some stems that can be modified for the storage function as well, but usually it's not the case. And there are many different kinds of stems, but so most of them looks like this twig, and this twig has buds, and so this is a terminal bud. So, and it's covered by the bud scales that protects the bud, and these are the modified leaves. And there are also axillary buds located here, and axillary buds are lateral, and they are found between the leaves and the stem they are attached, and they can grow and form a stem that bear leaves and flowers. And the area on stem where each leaf is attached is called a node. So these are nodes here, and the region between the two successive nodes is called internode. So this is node, and this area is called internode. And then the bud scales cover the bud and protect the bud when it's not growing, and when the bud starts to grow, the bud scales fall off, leaving the bud scars, also bud scale scars. And usually woody twigs in the temperate regions form terminal buds once a year at the end of the growing season, and that is why the number of the terminal bud scale scars on the twig can reveal its age. Like here we can see that this is the last year, so we can start from the bottom. So this is the first year growth, so this is the bud scale scar. So this is the first year growth, then this is the second year growth, and this is the third year growth. So that is why this twig is 3 years old. And the stems contain the vascular tissue, xylem and phloem, and they are different in the eudicots and monocots. So if we look at the eudicot stem structure, then we can see that the vascular buds are located in a circle around a central teeth. So this is a vascular bundle with the xylem. So this is a xylem, and this is a phloem. Between them there is a vascular cambium that can increase the both of these tissues. And if you look at the monocot stem, the vascular bundles are dispersed throughout the stem cut, so they are not located in a circle, so they are randomly dispersed inside the stem and inside the ground tissue. So this is the ground tissue, and these are vascular bundles. And then actually there is a thin layer of epidermis. So there is also here it's epidermis, and also can be cork. And if we look at the vascular bundle, so we increase this part, we will see here also this is a xylem, so it looks like an alien. These are two eyes, nose and mouth. So and then so this is actually a xylem, and this is a phloem. And then we can also see ground tissue here, and also a bundle shred here. So this is a vascular bundle of the monocots. So to better understand the difference between the monocots and eudicots, I would like to show you a video about the differences between the monocots and eudicots. So then please moment. So this is the difference. Please take note.
So plants are cool.
August, you want to show them this?
Medicinal purposes. Number 1, this plant is edible. It's poisonous. You would die.
The plant that killed Socrates.
And I know that because I do know a lot of cool plants, but I also know how to group them into similar categories in my head. Now today, I'm going to show you how to group most flowering plants into 2 different categories. Today, we have a whole bunch of flowering plants that we're going to plant. By flowering plants, I'm talking about the angiosperms, which are any plants with flowers. And those are different from the gymnosperms, like pine trees, the mosses, the ferns, and all of the other primitive plants.
Every one of these flowering plants we got can be divided into one of two categories, either a monocot or a dicot.
So here's the backstory. For flowering plants, biologists had finally divided them up into two groups, the monocots and dicots, the members of which tended to share similar features. So here are the features we most commonly use. Monocots like this lily are usually in multiples of 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Dicots have petals generally in multiples of 4 or 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Monocots typically have parallel veins, while dicots are net veined. If you pull up a monocot, most of the time it'll have these fibrous, spreading, or they call them adventitious roots. While the taproot, that's classic dicot. Stems. Cut the stem of a monocot in cross-section, and you'll see something like this. Vascular bundles scattered all around. While in dicots, they're usually at the edge. Cotyledons. This refers to parts in the seed. Monocots, also known as monocotyledons, means one cotyledon in the seed. And dicots, like this bean, have 2. Okay, so there's about 250,000 species of flowering plants in the world. And with the 5 characters that I just showed you, about 75% of those have been classified as dicots, and about 23% have been classified as monocots. What that means is there's about 2% that don't fit the classification so well. So recently, they've kind of revised our understanding of flowering plants. We think the evolutionary tree looks a bit like this. You see, early on, a few groups broke off. And then, other small groups came off of that. In the end, the monocots were classified here, and the dicots are classified here. But, other than the water lily relatives and the magnolia relatives, which contain most of that other 2% of flowering plants, the rest are still monocots and dicots. Okay, so now go out and see if you can identify those plants. If you like what we're doing.
Hope that you like this a presentation by the David, and so let's continue further. And so then let's talk about the development of a secondary growth in arid ecosystem that is usually occurs in trees. So the tissues of a young stem of a woody plants have a vascular cambium, and they have a thin layer. So the vascular cambium is actually a thin layer of the cells between the xylem and phloem, and they also have a vascular bundles. And the secondary growth in the woodies stems changes the everything, and the vascular cambium is usually becomes smooth and like here, smooth vascular cambium, and it is it starts to produce a secondary tissues. And So this is a blue tissue in the vascular cambium, and then it begins to divide, forming secondary xylem on the inside of the tissue, and a secondary phloem at the outside. So that gives us two additional tissues, secondary phloem and secondary xylem. And then eventually everything looks like this. So secondary xylem, that is actually becomes a wood, and secondary phloem that becomes an inner bark. So there is also an outer bark that is a remnants of the primary phloem, cortex and epidermis that are crushed because of the growth of a secondary phloem and secondary xylem. And then there is the remnant of the primary xylem and the pith. So, but most of the woody stem tissue is a secondary xylem, that is a wood. And throughout the growth, we can see a radial view of a vascular cambium cells. So actually this is a vascular cambium that give a growth to the secondary xylem here and phloem here. So this is the phloem, this is the xylem. And so this way the stem increases in the diameter, and it also produces rings that, because the growth is more prominent during the summer and stops during the winter. So, and that is why we can see the wood, we can see the rings, and if we count the rings, then we can identify the age of a tree. So the age of a tree will be the same as the number of these rings. And if we look at the cross section of the tree stem, then we can see a pith in the center, and then the primary xylem or a remnants of this primary xylem. Then there is the secondary xylem or the wood, and this is a 3 years old wood. That is why we have 1, 2, 3 rings here. So first year, second year, and third year growth. And then there is a vascular cambium. This is a thin layer of the vascular cambium, and then there is a phloem, secondary phloem, and then the periderm, and with the remnants of the primary phloem, cortex, and epidermis. So so this is secondary phloem, and this is the phloem ray between the bundles of the secondary phloem, connective tissue of the secondary phloem. And we can look at the same pie with the schematic representations of this secondary phloem, first, second, and third hair growth. Then also a secondary phloem, phloem ray, cortex, cork cambium, cork, and remnants of epidermis. So the cork cambium cannot be distinguished here because it's only one layer, thin layer, and also the epidermis. There is no epidermis here because it's completely destroyed. So this is the disease of the woody stem. And then also there is a secondary growth, and if we look at the secondary growth, then the secondary growth goes from the vascular bundle. So the vascular bundle will make a secondary growth and that leads to the increase in the corpus. So vascular cambium may give rise to the secondary phloem and secondary xylem. And this occurs like usually in the in these parts of the stems. And if we look at the lymph cell, so lymph cell is a type of the secondary growth also, and then it makes an opening in the cork cells that allows for the secondary growth of the for the leaves or secondary stems. So, and this is a difference between the heartwood and sapwood. So this is a cross section of the tree, and there are darker heartwood in the center and at the periphery. So this is a xylem, and sapwood, that is a phloem, that is a lighter sapwood, and the heartwood is actually more expensive and usually more valuable part of the tree. So we can also see annular rings here. So this is about 20-25 years old tree, and also cork at the periphery that protects the tree. So that is actually bark. So if we look at the annual rings, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4 years, actually 3 years old. 1, 2, 3 years old tree, and this is like picture under the microscope. So we can see this actually is a part of the, so if we increase this section, so this is the summer growth, because there is no much water, and then this is a spring growth because there is much water during the spring. So this is a 1 year growth, and so this is a summer growth again, so late summer, and then there is a vascular campaign here, and this is secondary flower. And if we look at the if we cut a block of the tree, then we can see we can make a tangential section, so, and then also the radial section. So and on tangential we can see a V-like structures, and the radial section is actually passes in the center, so it has only straight lines. So this is more valuable than this. So when in the production of the finishing and materials, so the radial section is more valuable. So and then also the problem of the modern world is the deforestation, and then deforestation is the clearance of the large areas of the forest because of the construction and agriculture. And forests are very important for the earth's lives, and they produce most of the oxygen and consume most of the carbon dioxide, and also they reduce erosion of the soil and absorb much of the water, and also help to reduce the floods, and provide a home for the animals like birds and small animals. And the deforestation is actually a very huge problem for the planet, and most of the deforestation occurs in the tropical world, so where the most of the trees are located is mostly in Brazil, Congo, and Indonesia. I think some of you are from Indonesia, so then so actually if you are from these parts of the world, then pay attention to the